everyone. Welcome to the regular the Liquor Commission meeting for February 5th, 2018. Please shut off your phones and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call, Clerk Hannaberry. Karen.
Commissioner Kruger?
Present.
Commissioner Vogel?
Here.
Commissioner Papantos?
Present.
Commissioner Lang?
Here.
Commissioner Vito?
Here.
Chairperson Horker?
Here. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes of January 8th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Papantos. Second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Commissioner Kruger?
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos?
Yes.
Commissioner Vito?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Thank you. Citizens' concerns and comments. Clerk Hannaberry.
Members of the general public may address the Liquor Control Commission with concerns or comments regarding issues relevant to the Liquor Control Commission's agenda or topics that the Liquor Control Commission is the authority pursuant to the Village Code to address. The chairperson or his or her designee shall strictly restrain comments to matters that are relevant to the Liquor Control Commission's business and shall not permit repetitious comments or arguments. Members of the general public who wish to address the Liquor Control Commission must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points. Ms. Wilson?
Good evening. One of the petitioners here tonight before the Liquor Commission is on Lake Hook Road. I had expressed a concern about that being not a readily visible business from the roadside, and I know they're not in a TIF district, so they don't qualify for any kind of TIF signage. But I would just like to encourage the village to really recognize that as one of our most viable corridors for business, and anything we can do to help them be more successful, I think, is a good idea because of all the traffic that goes through there. I think that Lake Hook Road, because it goes over the train tracks, they get just a lot more traffic from different villages, and I'd like to see. It was sad to me that this banquet hall had been there for so many years, and I was unaware it even existed, and I drive by it all the time.
Anyone else?
Liquor Control, no.
Thank you. New business. Clerk Hannaberry.
6A, consideration of request for a Class M liquor license for XO Restaurant and Banquet Hall, Inc.
Mr. Crotty.
Thank you, President Horker. The Class A1 liquor license previously held by XO Restaurant was recently revoked by the Liquor Commission due to the owner's ineligibility to hold a license. The business's ownership is now changed, and it is once again eligible to hold a liquor license. At staff's suggestion, the business has applied for a Class M banquet facility license that better reflects its operations.
Comments from the board? No comments. I would be looking for a motion to approve.
The condition here as well.
Motion to approve is conditioned on the passage of an ordinance by the Board of Trustees authorizing the creation of a new Class M liquor license. Now I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos.
Second.
Second, Trustee Lang.
Commissioner.
Sorry, yes, Commissioner Papantos and Commissioner Lang. Thank you. Clerk Hannaberry.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vito?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang? Commissioner Papantos?
Yes. Sorry.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes, again.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Chairperson Horker. Chairman Horker.
Either way, yes.
Okay.
Would you like me to read the Class M license?
Please read the Class M license.
We would like to read the class so that everyone understands what the terms of the license are. So a Class M banquet facility, Class M license, shall authorize the retail sale of alcoholic liquor in a banquet facility or banquet hall as defined in the chapter for consumption on the premises. A Class M license may only be issued to establishments meeting the following criteria: The exclusive activity of the establishment shall be the catering of private parties where full-service meals such as multiple-course meals, hors d'oeuvres, or buffet meals at a prearranged fixed price are prepared on the premises and served for consumption at tables on the premises. Adequate sanitary kitchen and dining room equipment shall be provided and maintained. The establishment shall have a minimum seating capacity of 50 persons and a seat shall be provided for each person. Alcoholic liquor may only be served or sold in conjunction with the food service and incidental to such food service. Each party must be prearranged under sponsorship of a particular person or organization. Alcoholic liquor may only be served to specific invitees of a specific event's host, as opposed to drop-in or reservation dining by the general public. And the establishment may not have a separate bar or tavern area devoted primarily to the service, sale, and consumption of alcoholic liquor only, and not used in connection with the banquet activity. Video gaming as defined under the Illinois Video Gaming Act, 230 ILCS 40/1, shall not be allowed in a Class M licensed premises.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item B.
Okay. Consideration of a request for a Class CV liquor license from Old Munich Tavern, Inc. Do I need to read the address, Jim? I didn't read the
Yes,
address one.
please.
I apologize. I didn't read XO either. XO Restaurant and Banquet Hall, 1057 and 1063 Lake Cook Road. This item is Old Munich Tavern, Inc., 582 North Milwaukee Avenue.
Evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Crotty. Oh,
May I speak?
sure.
My name is Bill Lombardius, and I'm here regarding reviving the Old Munich and putting the staple back on the map in the heart of Restaurant Row. My family and I have great experience in hospitality, especially in restaurants and bars. The interior, I'm keeping the same layout and making the required ADA improvements of the existing bathrooms and adding a ramp on the south side of the building. The flooring has been redone and the walls finished in a walnut stain. There will be a new bar and kitchen equipment. There will be no hoods or fryers per the health department as we are keeping a simple menu. The exterior will be focusing on landscaping, repaving the lot, new signage, and fresh paint. There are a lot of improvements, but the character and operations of Old Munich won't really change aside from the addition of video gaming, which is a necessary amenity to meet the customer's expectations and a necessary revenue source to ensure the viability of the business. I am shooting for a May 1st reopening. I am applying for my liquor license in order to get started with stated liquor and gaming approvals. I appreciate all the help, support, and direction from city staff and great anticipation of opening from the locals as well as industry in town.
Thank you. Mr. Crotty.
Sure. For the record, this is a request for a Class CV Tavern with video gaming liquor license from Old Munich Tavern, Inc., the new owner of the existing tavern at 582 North Milwaukee Avenue, which is currently closed for renovations. The tavern's previous owner held a Class C liquor license, but the new owner seeks a Class CV license that authorizes video gaming on the premises.
Any questions from the board? Trustee Commissioner Papantos.
Thank you. Is your business plan then to basically mimic what was there before, other than the video gaming?
Correct, but obviously a lot of cleanup,
Right. And thank you for putting in the ADA requirements.
of course.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions?
So moved.
We have some conditions to the motion. Mr. Crotty, would you please?
Sure. The motion should be conditioned upon submission of a certificate of insurance indicating liquor liability insurance for the establishment that names the Village of Wheeling as an additional insured party, submission of a current lease for the premises, payment of all associated fees, satisfactory background check results, and then passage of an ordinance by the Board of Trustees authorizing the creation of a new Class CV liquor license.
Correct.
No?
Still moved on it.
Commissioner Lang makes the
I'll
motion.
second.
Second, Commissioner Vogel. Roll call.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Vito?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos?
Yes.
Chairperson Horker?
Yes. So will there still be the Subway sandwiches on the side there?
Sandwiches?
Never mind.
We will have fresh sandwiches, brats and stuff. We'll have a good menu, I'll propose. Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
Like me to read this?
Please read the CV license.
Again, for the record, we'll read the CV license terms. A Class CV licenses shall authorize the retail sale of alcoholic liquor for consumption on the premises and authorize the operation of video gaming devices upon the licensed premises subject to the following conditions. The alcoholic beverage sales of a Class CV license shall make up at least 50% of the total gross revenue from all food and beverage on an annual basis. The total gross revenue from all food and beverage shall include alcoholic beverages, non-alcoholic beverages, and food. The determination of whether the 50% standard has been met shall be made at the time of license renewal for the year just ended, or in the event that a licensee has not possessed a Class CV license for a full year, the determination of whether the 50% standard has been met shall include, but not limited to, audited financial statements, corporate financial reports, tax return information, state liquor license reports, or any other form of information deemed acceptable by the village. A Class CV license must have a video gaming license issued by the Illinois Gaming Board in accordance with the provisions of the Video Gaming Act, shall comply with all provisions of the Illinois Video Gaming Act and all rules, regulations, and restrictions imposed by the Illinois Gaming Board, and the operation of video gaming terminals shall not be permitted during the hours alcoholic liquor sales are prohibited. A Class CV license shall not be issued in lieu of a more appropriate license contained within the section.
Thank you, Mr. Crotty. Unless there are any other questions, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn from the Liquor Commission.
So moved.
That would be a motion, Trustee Papantos, second,
Second.
Trustee Commissioner Lang. All in favor?
Aye.
I think it was Papantos or Kruger?
It was Kruger.
Kruger?
And then Lang?
Yeah, I get it wrong every time.
Commissioner Vito?
Yes.
Commissioner Papantos?
Yes.
Commissioner Kruger?
Yes.
Commissioner Lang?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogel?
Yes.
Chairperson Horker?
Yes. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Village Board for February 5th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Kruger?
Present.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Papantos?
Present.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
President Horker?
Here.
And Trustee Brady informed the board prior to the meeting he would be absent.
You have before you the minutes of the rescheduled meeting for January 8th, 2018. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Hold on one second. Vote's not coming up. Vogel and Papantos?
Pretty sure.
Okay. Trustee Kruger?
Abstain.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Proclamations, congratulatory resolutions, and awards. Deputy Clerk.
I have to read this?
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody should. Mike's doing a nice job.
Restaurant Month, February 2018, whereas for its earliest origins as an overnight stop for travelers bound for the Wisconsin Territory, Wheeling has been regionally renowned as a dining destination. Whereas Wheeling's many distinguished restaurants, both along Milwaukee Avenue's famous Restaurant Row and elsewhere in the village, provide residents from Wheeling and throughout the region not only with world-class meals, but also the opportunities to celebrate, to unwind, and to strengthen their ties to family, friends, neighbors, and colleagues. And whereas Wheeling's outstanding restaurants increase both the quality of life of its residents and the vitality of its commercial districts, and whereas Chicago's North Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau is coordinating a restaurant month to highlight restaurants offering in Wheeling and elsewhere in the northern suburbs during the month of February, and whereas over 70 restaurants in the Wheeling and nearby communities listed as at www.northshoredining.deals.com will be offering diner special deals in observance of Restaurant Month. Now, therefore, I, Patrick Worker, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim February 2018 as Restaurant Month in the Village of Wheeling, and I encourage all residents to participate by dining out at our local restaurants. Dated at the Village of Wheeling this 5th day of February 2018.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Citizens' comments.
Okay.
Deputy Clerk.
Members of the public may address the committee with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the committee. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Mr. Yamin?
Would you like a copy of what I'm talking about to each member of board?
Sure.
I can pass them down. Sure.
You can begin.
Okay. My name is Gregory Yamin, and my wife Eva is present here. We live just in Willing over the 27 years. We recently retired and started traveling using our RV. We rent a parking space for our camper in according to village ordinance. But we believe the current ordinance is overly restricted. It makes it difficult and inconvenient to come and go from our RV trips. We would like to propose a couple of minor changes to village ordinance, recreation vehicle parking and storage code of ordinance 9.10.120, its number. The 24 hours period to park on the driveway is specified in paragraph F is not sufficient time to prepare for trip and clean up after and unpack after return from trip. Please consider revisiting the ordinance to allow more times, perhaps up to a week, to park in the driveway as long as the RV does not obstruct the sidewalk. Moreover, obtaining written permission from police department is inconvenient because we may not know the specific date when we return from trip ahead of the time. It is not possible to predict how many trips we will accomplish during the year. Please consider revising and remove 4 times per year limit. For record, we did 8 short trips in 2016 and 5 long trips in 2017. We propose a reasonably priced permit that allow more flexibility for RV users prepare for our RV trips and cleaning up when we get home. Residents could purchase a booklet of permit, fill them out on the day when they begin using item and put the permit in the RV windshield. Then allow the RV to stay on the driveway for a week at the time. Thank you very much. And I hope.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, will do.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much.
President Horker?
Sir.
Any question?
No, for staff. Could you ask John or Michael to check and see what other municipalities do? I noticed Buffalo Grove just signed or discussed a new ordinance with the same effect and allowed it a week at a time maximum, which is the request tonight. Are there other communities that do the same or what they do
We can
as a
check
comparison?
that. Sure, we can check that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Deputy Clerk.
Deborah Wilson?
I had sent a slide in. Do you put that up? Or John Spondelis was going to make a slide for me?
Do not do that.
I can't hear you.
We do not do that.
It was always in the rules to send it to him several days ahead of time or within 48 hours, and he would.
It's not in the rules
When you
currently.
explain it.
When was that changed?
It's not in the rules. You're not entitled to have the village staff prepare a slide for you.
Well,
You have
several
5
months ago, it was in the rules.
You have 5 minutes to make your
All right.
presentation.
Everybody, all the members of the board received an email from me containing something I got from Northbrook's budget document. It is the tax rate per $100 of estimated assessed value. There's a black line going through the center of it showing the average. It shows, I think it's about 27, 28 suburbs that I counted. Wheeling in 2015, we only have 2 suburbs that have higher taxes than us, Evanston and Rolling Meadows. The lowest taxes were 0.6, just under 0.6, was Niles, Glenview, Northbrook, Schaumburg. We pay more in taxes than Kenilworth, Streamwood, Hoffman Estates, Glencoe, Des Plaines, Palatine, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, and Cook County portion of Buffalo Grove. And those were all the ones that were above the average. So it seems like we're making decisions here that are affecting the everyday taxpayer in Wheeling. In 2008 and 2009, before John Spondilis became village manager, we were side by side with Buffalo Grove, right smack dab in the middle of what the average was. I have copies of this from every year from 2008 all the way up to 2015. Wheeling is the only village represented on this graph that has moved significantly more than one or two places from the left to the right. So it seems to me like he is a spendthrift, and it's the hardworking people of Wheeling are having to carry that load for irresponsible spending. He was crying unfunded state mandates at the October budget hearing. I just think he's got poor decision-making. Somehow he managed to skip a level of advancement from assistant public works director. Instead of being promoted to public works director, he may skipped a step and went all the way up to assistant village manager before he became village manager. I think you need to really rethink his employment. I remember Judy Abrascado was quoted in the Daily Herald when he got a 10% pay raise when he was in his early years as village manager, and she said that wasn't unusual for top village managers. Well, I would say top village managers are the ones like Dane Bragg next door at Buffalo Grove, who gets paid based on performance and outcomes. It's my understanding there is no formal assessment here in Wheeling of his performance, and I think, I think I would recommend talking to other boards for other villages and seeing, maybe get some of their hard copies of how what the criteria and that they're evaluating their village manager. But I just think this is unacceptable. I think we're a humble town. There's no reason that our estimated our property taxes should be higher than 26 other nearby villages. I know that Joe Vito has called himself a fiscal conservative, so hopefully, perhaps you can bring some thoughts to the table on that when you guys discuss his future employment.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Nope.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson. Staff reports. Sorry?
Clerk Canterbury.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mr.
It's the chair.
Mr. Janik is not here.
Yes, yes, right there.
I'll go home now.
I'm throwing off your mojo.
He's there.
Mr. Janik, you have some comments about the
I did not
snow?
give him the night off.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to mention tonight, as you can see, as you saw walking up, we're having a snowstorm. And don't worry, you won't be seeing our public works drivers until about 2 o'clock this morning, if in fact you're up. The snow is going to last until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock tonight. And I made a decision to wait until 2 o'clock in the morning instead of fighting traffic and then bringing our guys in early. So don't worry. They will be here about 2 o'clock in the morning, and they'll have everything cleaned up by 7 o'clock. And please drive carefully, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Janik. Consent agenda. Clerk Hannaberry.
Here you go. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution approving one-year renewal contract with Pizzo and Associates, limited in the amount of $22,655.70 for maintenance of the William Rogers Diversion Channel in fiscal year 2018. 11B, resolution approving a one-year renewal contract with H&H Electric Company for streetlight maintenance and repair services in fiscal year 2018 for an amount not to exceed $25,000. 11C, resolution granting final acceptance of public improvements within the Northgate Crossing subdivision. 11D, resolution granting tentative acceptance of public and private improvements with the Northgate Crossing Phase 3 subdivision. 11E, ordinance amending Title IV, taxes, business regulations and licenses, Chapter 4.13, emergency medical transportation service. 11F, ordinance declaring personal property owned by the Village of Wheeling as surplus and authorizing the disposal of said personal property. 11G, resolution authorizing acceptance of the previously bid suburban purchasing cooperative contract for the purchase of 3 2018 Ford Utility Police Interceptor SUVs from Curry Motors at a cost not to exceed $89,620. 11H, resolution authorizing acceptance of the previously bid suburban purchasing cooperative contract for the purchase of one 2018 Ford Escape SE from Curry Motors at a cost not to exceed $22,775. 11I, resolution authorizing acceptance of the previously bid suburban purchasing cooperative contract for the purchase of one 2018 Dodge Charger from Napleton Fleet Group at a cost not to exceed $24,525. 11J, resolution authorizing acceptance of the previously bid State of Illinois contract number 4018309 for the purchase of one 2018 Dodge Grand Caravan from Wright Automotive at a cost not to exceed $25,830. 11K, ordinance amending Chapter 4.32 of the Village of Wheeling's Municipal Code, alcoholic liquor dealers, specifically Section 4.32.085, to increase the authorized number of Class M and decrease the authorized number of Class A1 liquor licenses. 11L, ordinance amending Chapter 4.32 of the Village of Wheeling's Municipal Code, alcoholic liquor dealers, specifically Section 4.32.085, to increase the authorized number of Class CV and decrease the authorized number of Class C liquor licenses.
Any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Second.
Second.
Trustee Papantos, roll call.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Papantos.
Yes.
Trustee Krueger.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes. New business. Mr. Jennings. Wait just
Let me
one
read, hang on, I'll read it.
Just.
No old business, right?
There is no old business, new business?
New business.
I introduce A.
Okay, 13A, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for a sit-down restaurant in Lot 8, Building H1, City Works of Wheeling Town Center Subdivision, docket number 2017-16.
Now, Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, President Horker. The petitioner, the developer of the Wheeling Town Center, is working with the future tenants. You'll see 3 items in a row that relate to the ongoing evolution of the development of the town center here. This is the first of those 3. The petition in front of you right now is for special use for the restaurant, which would be located across the village green from the proposed theater building. The proposed special use that was reviewed by the Planning Commission, there were a couple of minor items that were discussed. The first one is the operable windows in the front of the building. The petitioner, during the Planning Commission hearing, had noted that the building was designed to be an open-air dining experience. The Village of Wheeling has an existing health code that we believe does allow for that with some restrictions. We're working through the restrictions. We provided in your staff project report this week the guidelines that we intend to use for the review of all open-air dining establishments. They've been provided to the petitioner as well, and they are going to be working with us on the permit review should this item be approved tonight. There are 2 conditions of approval. The first relates to open-air dining. The Planning Commission has suggested this recommended condition. We've modified it in light of our review of the guidelines. That condition reads, as proposed, the windows adjacent to the patio are operable and are intended to open as weather permits, with final configurations subject to modifications that may be required during permit review. There's a second condition, condition number 2, patio shall have seasonal landscaping. Petitioner is here. Before I hand it over to them, I just want to point out there is an error in the staff report that actually changes the meaning of the one portion of the staff review to the opposite meaning. I just want to clarify for anyone who may have read that and been confused by it. A grease trap, exterior grease basin, is required for a restaurant of this style. You could get the impression from the staff report that it is not required. It is certainly required for this type of business. And with that, I would hand it over to the petitioner.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here again. Andrew, is it okay if I go through CityWorks and Starbucks, or do you want to take a pause in between?
Should probably take a pause, let the vote take place, and then
Okay.
do that.
Okay. All right. So we'll just go through the CityWorks item then for now.
Yes.
So here's a perspective of CityWorks. As many of you know from the groundbreaking event, we had CityWorks there along with a number of marketing materials promoting CityWorks. It's an 8,000 square foot American bar and grill restaurant with a lot of TVs, a lot of beers on tap. It's the ideal tenant for the town center. It's exactly what we were looking for all along to serve as a co-anchor to the project. As you could see, taking full advantage of the pedestrian plaza with good outdoor seating. And then there's a bocce court as well that's being incorporated that's going to flank the village green. So we're really happy to have them on board. CityWorks is owned and operated by Bottleneck Management. They have, I think, 16 locations throughout the United States. A majority of them are right here in the downtown area of Chicago. They all go under different branding, but they all have the same concept of good American food with a twist. It's a good atmosphere for gathering to watch sporting events and other family-friendly activities. So here, looking at the site plan, as Andrew mentioned, here's the theater site, here's the plaza, and this is building H1 that we refer to it, that'll be occupied by CityWorks. And here you can see the outdoor seating and then the bocce court. Here's another perspective, just so you get to see all four sides of the building. A lot of detail went into the planning. We worked with our architects and our contractors in order to come up with a design that was going to be feasible and satisfactory to the developer and the tenant as well. Everybody's really happy. We brought a number of the material samples here for you to look at, and if you guys have any questions, we can go over those as well. We've got some good signage. We even have an area here with a canopy for the valet parking station that was part of the PUD plan. And we're really happy with the final design here of CityWorks. The operable windows, as Andrew had mentioned, is a big selling point, not only for CityWorks, but for all of the other tenants that we're talking to that want to open up restaurant spaces at the town center. They all want to take advantage of having those operable windows and opening the space up in the summertime for the outdoor dining component. So we're going to make sure that we work with the village on resolving anything that needs to be addressed with regards to the health code issues. Here's a sample of all the materials, and again, I've brought all those we can go through if you'd like. This is a floor plan for the interior space of the restaurant. I do want to point out that there were some minor modifications that were made to the site plan. The red outline here is the original footprint for building H1. And as we had additional meetings with them and their architects and they put together their floor plan, we made minor modifications. We stretched the building out a little bit to the south, and so we shifted the cut-through area here between buildings H1 and H2, so that in turn adjusted the footprint for building H2. One thing that I want to point out is that while the cut-through between buildings H1 and H2 shifted, we also shifted all of the landscaping elements in the pedestrian plaza. None of the materials or planting selections changed, but what we did is we kind of shifted everything to the south so it would all line up from a symmetrical standpoint, so the focal center here lines up with the cut-through here. That's all I have for CityWorks at this point.
Questions from the board? Trustee Lang?
I just want to mention how great the plan looks. This looks like it'll be a very successful restaurant, exactly what we thought would be there. But I also want to call out Mr. Jennings and thank him for jumping on that open-air concept. It seems like we're already going to have many uses to that other than CityWorks. And thank you for jumping on that right away. We asked you just a few weeks ago, and you seem to have it nailed down already. So thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. And I too wanted to call out to community development and staff that they did work on this rapidly. I think I read in the paper that CityWorks is also going to open in Schaumburg.
Correct.
Same type of style? Because this is a beautiful building.
Same type in terms of like the copper logo, advertising, whatnot. Some of the building materials that we selected are unique for the town center. I don't actually think that Schaumburg has an outdoor bocce ball court, so we're special.
Because we're better.
We're special. Yeah.
We are. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from the board? If there are no other questions, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Vogel, second trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Krueger?
Hurry up, I'm hungry and thirsty. Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. I would like to say it's nice to see that there's a nice uniformity of the materials you're using throughout the entire development. It's really it's not all the same, like institutionally the same, but you do have a really nice continuity of materials through the development. It's looking nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll make sure I tell my architect he did good.
Yeah, don't tell him too much. He'll get all big-headed. Deputy Clerk.
13B, ordinance granting special use site plan approval for a drive-through restaurant, Starbucks, in Lot 2, Building A of Wheeling Town Center Subdivision, docket number 2017-17.
Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. This is the second of the 3 town center related items related to the town center's ongoing development. The petitioner is the developer who is, again, seeking special use approval on behalf of a future tenant. As with the H1 building, the A building had a placeholder in the original PUD plan. As the tenant began to develop the build-out plans, it's required some minor modification. The footprint isn't exactly the same as the originally anticipated footprint. The Plan Commission has reviewed this proposed special use and made a recommendation with a few conditions in it. The conditions are as follows. Number 1, that the patio fencing shall be black iron. Number 2, that the bike rack location will be inside the patio as shown on the floor plan. The location of bike racks on other plans is not approved. Number 3, the trash enclosure shall have a horizontal stripe using a contrasting CMU color. The Plan Commission, in their review, there were a couple of items that I should point out. The Plan Commission had some concern over the location of the trash enclosure. There was a pretty involved discussion. The petitioner has addressed that now. There's a walkway, crosswalk across the drive aisle to connect to the trash enclosure, and it has been located with a buffer around it so that the cars that were parked in that part of the parking lot won't be right up against the trash enclosure. They've also agreed to work with Starbucks to install some directional signage. It could be a little bit confusing as you approach the drive-through how the flow of traffic should be arranged, and their intention is to install directional signage. And they're here still if you would like to ask any questions about it.
Questions from the board?
Nothing, am I right?
So moved.
No questions? Looking for a motion to approve? Is that you, Trustee Lang?
Can't let him off that easy. Ask him something. He's getting all happy. I'm smiling. It's the first time he's ever not been asked something.
I didn't even get a chance to present my slide.
I was going to say, where's the slides?
You want to go through the slides?
Presentation.
No, I'm kidding.
Talk about the trash enclosures.
So we found this small little coffee shop. Maybe you guys have heard of it. It's called Starbucks.
I like Caribou myself.
Good detail, sorry.
Yeah,
I still stand by my motion.
Fine, that's fine. Was there a second? Second from Trustee Vogel. We'll take a roll call.
All right, Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Brings us to C.
13C, ordinance amending ordinance number 5033, which granted final planned unit development approval for the Wheeling Town Center retail and residential planned unit development, current address 351 West Dundee Road, docket number PC 17-19.
What is this, Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. This is the third of the 3 site plan approval related items for the town center. As we alluded to in the discussion of the previous 2, the original PUD approval had anticipated a certain shape of these buildings. As the tenants became known and started working with the development team, they had specific requests. They have modified the footprints of the buildings. So this item is the housekeeping end of it. They now have to have approvals to the overall plan for the development so that the plans are consistent with the master site plan. So in the case of the H1 building, as Mr. Friedman mentioned, the walkway between the H1 and H2 is shifted to the south, and then there's corresponding changes to the landscaping and features in the plaza to accommodate the relocation of that walkway. The Starbucks site plan has been modified slightly, and the area around it has been updated accordingly. The other change of note is there's a tenant that the development team has been working with who's requested that buildings F and G be consolidated into a single building. The development team is trying to accommodate that request so that they can continue the lease discussions with that particular tenant, who's a tenant that has two different spaces planned in that consolidated F and G building. So this site plan, should it be approved, would then be used to continue the leasing discussions with that particular potential tenant.
Questions from the board? Trustee Lang, then Trustee Kruger.
My question isn't exactly what the site plan, I know it's been changing and it doesn't seem like it's changing for the better. That's what, it's fine. But the land behind Burger King, which is not part of this site plan, is that village-owned land?
It is.
It is. Is there?
You mean up here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any plans for the future of that other than it being just an empty lot as it is? It looks like one could hold parking should we need it, or it could be landscaped. Is there any plan for that in the future?
We've had this discussion with the contractor who did the relocation of the West Shore pipeline. That particular parcel is the easement for the new pipeline location. They had within their original contract, which the village is not a party to, they had a restoration requirement in that, and we're working with them right now to ensure that they have done everything that they were required to do. But again, we are not on that contract with them, so we have to go through West Shore Pipeline to talk to them about that. Beyond their restoration, no, we haven't had a discussion of additional landscaping or parking. Again, it would be subject to the easement agreement that we signed with West Shore, though.
Okay, because the pipeline goes under that parking lot anyway through the metro station and so on, so it can be done theoretically. We could put parking or some parking back there should we need it.
It was something that had to be negotiated. Actually, they do not like the fact that it goes under a parking lot, so it's something we would have to revisit with them if we wanted to do anything beyond the grass that's currently back there.
And we may not need it, but just to, it's sort of a land banked for now, if you would. But if we at least have plans for the future for landscaping part or some of that, that would be great as well. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Kruger, Trustee Papantos, you're next.
Thank you, President Horker. Brad, or maybe this is a question more for Andrew. You guys decide. This is more for the future. This request in front of us is for buildings A, B, H1, H2, and F and G, right? Possible consolidation. So there we've still got C, D, and E. Can we anticipate this kind of a thing to come again when you start working with those tenants?
I think it's very possible that slight modifications are made. I made a statement to the Plan Commission, and I'll make that statement to the board as well, that it is difficult to work with retailers right now. And so I'm just using this as an example, right? This is a small 1,700 square foot Starbucks outlined in red from a couple of years back, and they made modifications to their floor plan and their footprint, and their new store is 2,100 square feet. So they gave us their floor plan, and I handed it over to my architect, and I said, here, make it fit, make it work. At the end of the day, we're going to do whatever we can to accommodate the tenants in order to bring them into the town center. And so if they take a look at building C or building D and they're like, okay, well, this is how we want our floor plan to lay out, and maybe it takes somewhat of a different shape, but ultimately I think it will look 95% similar to what, you see here. I think if you take a look at this site plan, you probably don't notice the differences. They're so small.
Right.
And so we're just doing what we can in order to make those
I
accommodations.
appreciate that you're doing it along the way, and that, these changes aren't happening on the fly and that there isn't any recording of the changes. So you're going to record this, provided it gets approved tonight, and then when C, D, and E want to make a few, cut off a corner or put in more parking or whatever they decide to do.
Yeah, it's all driven by the
On the
retail tenants and the restaurants and their footprints and their requirements, so.
Fair enough. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. Specifically F and G, they look like they're abutting Burger King awfully close. Is this a change or?
So actually, the only thing that changed with F and G, and I just want to say that, this is contingent upon our final building appearance approval for F and G, which we haven't gone in for yet.
Right.
But the north side of building, what's now building F, was always at this same point on the site plan. The only thing that changed is we used to have a cut through here. And after talking with some of the tenants and realizing what their square footages were going to be, the cut through really just didn't make sense anymore. And so we combined those two. It's very likely that these tenants are going to have multiple access points, one on the east side, one on the west side, so they don't have to walk around. We've also found out that it's actually much more feasible from like a, economical feasibility, environmental aspect of heating, cooling, and whatnot, and materials. So we're all happy with this design as it is right now. And as we fill in the remaining space to lease for that building, we will go in for the approval, and I'll see you again real soon.
You're keeping your architect busy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other comments, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion from Trustee Kruger, second.
Second.
Trustee Lang, roll call, please.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item D.
All right.
Thank you.
13D, ordinance authorizing the Third Amendment to the Restated Redevelopment Agreement between the Village of Wheeling and WTC LLC for the development of land at 351 West Dundee Road, Wheeling, Illinois, comprising a part of the Town Center 2 TIF District and the Village of Wheeling, Cook and Lake Counties, Illinois.
Mr. Ferrolo.
Thank you, President Horker. The third amendment before the board tonight makes three primary changes to the Restated Redevelopment Agreement. The first allows CMX Theater an additional 180 days to commence construction of the theater building. That will take commencement up to May 18, 2018. The additional time was needed due to the modifications to the CMX Theater building that will be presented to the Plan Commission this Thursday, I believe. CMX is under a lease with the developer, a ground lease with the developer for that site. The second change relates to the acquisition of land from IDOT at the north end of the development. It was IDOT right-of-way that was needed to complete the subdivision, the plat of re-subdivision. There were several parcels of IDOT right-of-way that we discovered were controlled and owned by IDOT when they were thought to be village right-of-way. IDOT conducted an auction. Those parcels were purchased by the developer. The change to the RDA allows for reimbursement to the developer for that land acquisition, which took place just last week. And the final change is a technical change relating to the payment of the TIF notes to the proper developer-controlled entity. The change would allow the TIF notes to be paid to wholly owned entities that the developer controls. This is due to the fact that the developer is developing the residential component of the project with one LLC and the retail component with a separate LLC, again, both wholly owned by WTC LLC. Those are the three changes that the Third Amendment brings forth. We ask for your approval.
Comments from the board, Trustee Lang?
Just a simple one. Does this delay the opening of CMX by much?
CMX, the opening for CMX is going to be delayed slightly because of the change to the exterior. So it's likely that it's going to push into the spring of 2019.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Any other comments or questions? None. I'd be looking for a motion to approve. Trustee Lang, second.
Second.
Papantos?
Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Thank you.
13E, resolution waiving competitive bids and authorizing the refurbishment of engine 611 by Kards Incorporated Vehicle Services at a cost not to exceed $38,500.
Chief McIsaac.
Thank you very much, President Horker. Before you tonight is a request to proceed with our second refurbishment of a vehicle. As some of the board members may remember, in 2015, the board challenged Fleet Services and the fire department to look at ways to extend the life of some of our more expensive pieces of equipment. At that time, we, in 2016, went for a refurbishment of our reserve engine by the same company that we're requesting tonight, Kards Incorporated, who rebuilt that rig to the point it should easily get an additional 5 years of life out of it. This is a package situation where Fleet Services is doing the complete mechanical overhaul of this vehicle, and Kards would be doing the complete body and frame restoration work on this vehicle. This vehicle currently is 12 years old, and we do anticipate that this will extend its life at least another 5 years, taking it beyond its original replacement time frame. The price that's before you tonight is a little bit on the unique side in that we have in the past used Stasek Chevrolet and the Wheel Inn here in town to do body work on some of our vehicles, but the extent of work doing a complete refurbishment of these vehicles far exceeds their capabilities. Kards is a fire apparatus refurbishing company. Like I said, they have done work for us before as well as many other municipalities around us. The price that's before you tonight does include some contingency funds because once they start taking the entire body of this vehicle apart, we do anticipate there might be some unexpected additional repairs to the body that may be needed. Thus, the price in front of you does include a contingency pricing as well, not to exceed. The amount we're asking you for tonight is a price not to exceed $38,500. Originally, we had anticipated this project coming in at around $50,000. The money is in the SURF account for this particular refurbishment, and the amount we're asking for is clearly within the budget. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions from the board? Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. First of all, thank you once again, Superintendent Spratt, for working your magic to make sure that we save a little bit of money. If we had replaced this engine, what would the approximate cost be, Chief McIsaac?
About $600,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Trustee Krueger. Motion, second Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
13F, resolution accepting a $38,650 proposal from Haeger Engineering LLC for consulting services involving the restoration of the Fox Point property.
Who's got this? Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, President Horker. The item on the agenda tonight is representing a transition for us. It begins the next phase of this multi-phase project. And before we make that transition over to Public Works, I just want to recap for the board and for the public a little bit of what has been going on. Out of respect for the privacy of the residents, we've been hesitant to have a lot of public discussion about some of the events that have occurred there recently. But as we've now completed a substantial portion of the relocation program, we felt that it was appropriate to spend just a moment here and recap a little bit of what's happened. As the board is very familiar with, the Fox Point property is subject to repetitive flood loss. The residents there were not able to relocate their own homes due to various regulations. They could not move the existing homes out, and for all intents and purposes, were stuck with their homes. When the property flooded in 2013, the village began working with the property owner, FEMA, and Cook County on a potential grant to relocate the residents to permanent housing that was not subject to the risk of repetitive flood loss. So this is a shot, just for historical perspective, of the flooding. This particular one is from an aerial photography that we had done in the flood in 2007. The flood in 2013 was the most, probably the most extensive damage to the units themselves. Many of the units were damaged beyond inhabitability. Some of the residents left at that point. Some were able to obtain FEMA grants themselves to rehabilitate the homes enough to where they felt it was proper to live in again. The village at this point began very seriously working with Cook County on a subrecipient grant. So the Cook County is awarded disaster recovery money from the federal government. They can work with the municipalities within Cook County on specific projects. The Village of Wheeling was very fortunate to have the opportunity to work with Cook County on the subrecipient program so that we had access to disaster recovery funds that have been given to Cook County. So since 2016, we have been under the terms of that grant and working with Cook County and a relocation consultant to help the residents, the former residents now, of Fox Point find permanent replacement housing. The homes you can see here, again, had taken on water, and again, they could not be relocated. The residents could not be relocated without having a new home elsewhere. So there's no opportunity to move homes off of this property. This is Fox Point as it is today. The residents had been displaced yet again in July, and as I had mentioned, out of respect for their privacy, we've been trying not to provide too many updates publicly. At this point, though, the residents who were displaced off the property in July have now been relocated to permanent housing. And we're working with, we continue to work with some of the residents who left in the period before the village took ownership of the property. So that would be the period 2013 through the beginning of 2017. So we're still working with the relocation consultant. Some of the residents who left may apply their relocation benefit package retroactively to the homes that they're in now, and some of them may choose to relocate yet again through the program. So at this point, we are, and this is where I'll make the transition over to Public Works. At this point, we're able to leave this phase of the program. The relocation of the residents who were displaced is substantially complete. As I said, we are working with some of the people who left prior to the village's acquisition. But at this point, we are able to now focus on the future of the property. It is required to be open space by the terms of the grant, and that is where we leave off with Public Works now for this next phase.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Mr. Janik?
The contract before you is a proposal from Haeger and Searing, and it's for preparation of construction drawings and approvals that we need to obtain from various agencies to create an open space on this property. There's a plan attached, a preliminary plan attached to the contract. It shows mostly open space on the property, and it shows a parking lot on the west side of it. There are two access points, one access point on Fox Point property and one access point on the property just directly to the north of Fox Point, which is owned by the village as well. On that property, there was a building at one time which was torn down. So the contract that we have, or that we're suggesting for approval tonight, will deals with grading. About 3/4 of this property is in floodway, which means you can't build anything on it. You can't fill, you can't build anything on it. But what you can do is you can remove soil and then put soil back, which is what we need to do on a lot of this property. All the asphalt was taken up by the existing contractor. A lot of trees were taken down as well, as you probably saw last week. So right now, what we need to do is get plans done, take a survey of the property, get elevations, and then take the plans that we get done by Haeger and put them out for bid. Now, we're not suggesting that everything on the plans is built at one time. You will obviously see the drawings when they're done, and before we put them out for bid. And between now and that time, maybe we'll be talking to you about possibilities on the property itself. Now, I got to tell you, there are very few possibilities available for this property. Like I said, this is mostly floodway, and floodway you can't even put fencing on. maybe some sort of the fencing that allows water to go through it at I'll call it a fast rate. For instance, you wouldn't be able to put a solid wood fence on the property. Maybe the FEMA or IDNR would allow you to put up a fence that has a lot of slats in it, open for water to flow. But generally speaking, you can't really put anything on floodway. And that was the agreement with the county as well. This would be open space in perpetuity, and that's the idea behind the contract.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel, you have a question, then Trustee Lang.
Yeah, just a little confused. You talk about funding. Is the funding for this $38,000 plus the actual restoration available contingent upon money being left over from the relocations, or is it there now?
The overall budget that was originally approved with Cook County included restoration funding. The restoration funding budget was then reinserted in September when we had to submit a revised budget due to the estimated cost of dealing with the July flood. So as we now have a much better picture of what the total cost of managing the impact of the July flood was, as well as the relocation packages for the individual households, the amount that is left for the restoration is a range. We're going to, over the next few months, we'll be able to narrow it down to a firmer number, but it was budgeted for. It is still out of the grant program, but the amount that's available at the end of the grant program is still being viewed as a range by the village staff.
Okay, but it does include the engineering?
Yes.
Okay. The other question is, you said the uses of the land were limited. Obviously, you can't park on that property.
That's a possibility. There is some floodplain on the west side of the property, and you can build on floodplain as long as you replace any volume that you take away. If you fill in the floodplain, you can compensate for that volume, but you can build hardscape on a floodplain.
Okay.
Not floodway, but on a floodplain.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Lang, you're next.
Thank you. Well, as you saw from some of the pictures up there, it was pretty devastating back there and for a long time. And I just want to thank Mr. Janik in the past, who was dealing with that project, and then Mr. Jennings, of course, Ms. Huzar, and then anyone else who has had their hand into taking care of this project and the people that were living back there. And it seems like all the folks that had been living back there are in pretty good hands right now, with the exception of a few working still on getting housing. But thank you all for the care you put into this project, because it was a really tough one. I appreciate it. The picture we're showing right now with the trees that are there, are those pretty much pick-through trees? Are those the keepers, or have we not gone to that stage yet?
No, we've gone to that stage. I know it's winter and we can't really see exactly the health of these trees, but the trees we took down, we didn't take down any oak trees, we didn't take down any maple trees. The trees we took down were Siberian elm, box elder, green ash. There was a bunch of trees on there. Some were in good shape, some were in bad shape, but the trees we took down were not quality trees at all. Now, some of the trees that I left are probably going to come down anyway, because if we do put a parking lot in, we'll have to take some more down. But these trees that we kept are the ones that look the best. Now, I'm not saying that these are great trees either, but at least the growth pattern of the tree itself is relatively good.
Well, I look forward to that being completed, and thank you all again for the work you've done.
Thank you, trustee Lang. Trustee Kruger, trustee Papantos, you're next.
Thank you. Having to drive past this site every single day or a work day, it is worth noting how remarkable this site looks. It's just remarkable. The work product of the hours and hours of dedication by Director Jennings and his team, and Sherry working with the residents before they were relocated, and Mark with the project before we got into the grant. I know it sounds like I'm repeating you, Trustee Lang, but it really is worth repeating about the work and the teamwork that was put in and working with all these other agencies in order to see this to fruition. That said, I think the first and foremost positive out of this was the relocation and the safety of the families that were there, and that they are no longer having to live, with that fear of flooding again. Second, it's cleared the site of blight. And third, we started talking about the presentation of limited possibilities for that site. So I'm assuming that this agreement with Haeger is so that we can have a future discussion on the open space options, how limited they are.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much for all your all your efforts.
Thank you, trustee Kruger. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you, and I also want to echo thanks to Director Weezar, Director Jennings, Director Janik, staff as a whole, for this was a big win for the residents who are there. They now have a safe place to live, and it was a win for the village because we helped them get there without spending taxpayer money on that. Speaking of the money, the grant, what can be done with this land? Can we sell it? Can we give it away? What are our restrictions?
We are pretty restricted. It has to be, as Director Janik said, it has to be kept in open space in perpetuity. The intention of the grant is that the village would own this. We were provided money for acquisition through the grant program, and so we have an expectation at the end of this that we will record a covenant holding this land as open space in perpetuity. So the options for maintenance and management, I think that we are open to discussion with the county on that. I think that there is some flexibility, but the idea of it is that it has to be held as open space in perpetuity.
Thank you. And the picture we're looking at now is taken from the eastern border of the property looking west?
This is, it's kind of difficult to see. I don't know if I can point it out.
I believe it's the south east corner.
You're at the southeast corner. This is the marker, the property marker. So we're off the property at the southeast corner looking northwest.
Okay, thank you. And the property directly to the north of this property is village-owned property?
That's correct.
That's between the apartments and this property. It used to be a restaurant?
That's correct.
So will that be open space also?
The documents, and I don't know if you can answer this too, but the documents that we're asking Haeger to prepare do incorporate that property into the engineering study and into the construction documents that they will be that they'll be asked to prepare for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Papantos. If there are no other questions, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, trustee Vogel, second, trustee Papantos. Roll call.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Excuse me. Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Deputy Clerk.
13G, discussion regarding Wolf Road lighting.
Mr. Janik.
Thank you. This project, this concerns the jurisdictional transfer of Wolf Road. In 2006, the jurisdictional transfer of the southern part of Wolf Road was accomplished. That was from Manchester Drive south past Mesner. The north part of Wolf Road was agreed to be transferred by the village board in 2014. As part of the transfer, the village negotiated with IDOT that IDOT would reconstruct Wolf Road, and attached to the reconstruction of Wolf Road, the village determined at that time that they would like to see lighting along Wolf Road, along this section of Wolf Road. Now we don't have this kind of lighting that is shown on the drawings here on the north part of Wolf Road, but we were going to put it on the south side of Wolf Road. Excuse me, on the north part of Wolf Road. Now, the lighting that was going to be put up was going to be the same light standards that are on Milwaukee Avenue and Dundee Road. The entirety of Wolf Road, except for approximately $250,000, was going to be paid by IDOT for the reconstruction. Then those would take over the road and all the maintenance and everything that was associated with it. The lighting, however, was not going to be paid by the state. The state did not want to pay for the lighting. We got an approval for 80% of the lighting cost. Total lighting on this project would cost about $1.4 million. We obtained an agreement from Northwest Municipal Conference that they would pay through STP funding 80% of that $1.4 million. Well, recently, the municipal conference, the technical committee, decided not to fund any more lighting projects. Now, you might remember that we had lighting on Lake Cook Road that was recently upheld by the technical committee and the Northwest Municipal Conference, but not the same percentage as we previously were going to get. That is the last lighting project, as far as I know, that the municipal conference is going to pay for through additional funding. So the question is now, we were going to put lighting on Wolf Road. The board agreed to approximately $60,000 engineering contract with Baxter and Woodman to do drawings for that lighting. This memorandum that you're provided for suggests that we have about $365,000 of funding put aside in the CIP to pay for the $1.4 million of lighting. But as I just said, we're not going to get funding for the additional $1 million. Memo describes the situation, describes how this lighting would work, but in the end, the question is, does the board want to fund a project of $1 million in addition to the rest of the CIP projects? It's our contention that we have a lot of CIP projects that need to be done. This lighting, although it'd be great to have, is not an absolute requirement relative to various other projects that we have listed that you approved recently.
Any comments specifically, Trustee Lang?
Thank you. Well, I agree. I'd love to have lighting there, and at the time when construction is commencing, that would be great. But that price tag is way too much. From what we've seen with the Dundee Road project, especially to the west, where they've moved all the power lines back to accommodate the lighting that will be going in there this spring.
That's correct.
It was the overhead lines that were really an issue. Probably more of an issue, more of a cost to that project, if I'm guessing. Will there be similar problems here in the future with overhead lines? Should we, 10 years from now, say, let's put lighting in here? If the overhead lines are already moved back far enough, there wouldn't be quite an issue of access.
No, there won't be. When Wolf Road gets widened, and it's supposed to be a 3-lane cross-section, all the ditches would be gone, there'd be new sidewalks, and any sort of power poles that are there would be pushed back if they're near the road. And yes, it probably would be, well, it won't be less expensive to put the wiring in, because then you have to, dig afterwards. The vast majority of the cost, the $1.4 million of this particular project, is underground. It's laying in the cable, laying in the conduit, putting in the transformers that are underground, and then putting in when the wiring comes up, you need to put the concrete base in to protect that wiring for the future when you put in the pole. So the vast majority of the cost is underground and excavation.
Okay, so
if you wanted to do it in the future, it's possible, but it would be even more expensive.
And so my next question was, there's not even any infrastructure that we could put in to, perhaps facilitate that or cheapen the cost in the future.
Well, you could, but it would cost, if there's $1.4 million cost, it would probably be $1 million to put it underground or more, waiting for the time you put the poles up. The poles are probably $150,000, $200,000. There's about 32, 34 poles. and to buy those and then erect them would be probably about $200,000 to maybe $250,000.
Well, hopefully there's some grants in the future. That's the direction I'd take. But let's keep looking too for grant money if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Trustee Papantos, Trustee Vogel, you're next.
Thank you. While we're going to, or we're looking perhaps to put this on hold, we will light those intersections that need be, or the crosswalks.
My suggestion is going to be, when we get the plans from IDOT, and we've already mentioned to IDOT the importance of some locations, such as the crosswalks that exist already. Now, we've already put lighting at the intersection of Dundee and Wolf, but we will be, I mean, this is an IDOT project, okay? We will be, and we already have told IDOT that they need to consider lighting at various locations. Now, the Park District is considering making their access on Wolf Road full access. There's a crosswalk there. We've told IDOT that there should be additional lighting there. There are some lights along the roadway. There is a light at that intersection. We're hoping that they're going to upgrade the lighting in various locations, such as the intersections, even though it's not going to be, four tall lights like we have at Dundee Road. I can't tell you exactly what they're going to do on the drawings yet, because we don't have the final drawings. They're doing them right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vogel?
I have to agree with your recommendation and look for grants in the future. I think that's our best bet right now, so I agree with that.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. I would like to formally poll the board so there's clear direction. Trustee Vogel?
Agree.
What?
What's the direction for?
To postpone this until money comes. I don't know when that would. Is that clear enough?
That's very technical, but yes.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
Agree.
Trustee Papantos?
Agree with the recommendation of Public Works, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Vito?
Agreed.
Trustee Lang?
Agreed.
Trustee Krueger?
Agree.
I also agree. Thank you for that presentation and for understanding my technical jargon. Official communications. The Village of Wheeling is currently accepting applications for the Board of Health. Visit the village's website at www.wheelingil.gov or contact Health Officer Serena Klinger at 847-499-9048. That's 847-499-9048. Also, just for purposes of clarification, the only way that our budget can go up or down or increase our taxing is by an action of this board. There is no individual up on the board or in staff that impacts the taxes that are levied against the village. Additional comments, official communications. Trustee Krueger?
If it's okay, thank you, Pat. If it's okay with Chief McIsaac, I'd like to do my first of two promotions for one of my favorite events of the year, which is Wheeling's participation in St. Baldrick's, which is a great organization that we participate in, where a bunch of our firefighters and their families, and on occasion a trustee or two, shave their heads and collect money for children's cancer research. This year's event will be on Saturday, March 3rd at the same place that it's been before, which is Home House of Music and Entertainment, 1227 North Rand Road, Arlington Heights, across from Hersey High School. The event runs from 12 noon until 5 p.m. This is our 10th year, Chief. This will be our 10th year, and we have raised over $500,000 to help bring awareness to children's cancer research. So again, March 3rd, St. Baldrick's, and I'll say it again at the next meeting. So thanks so much.
Nothing, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos? No?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Once again, Director Jennings, Director Weezer, fantastic job on Fox Point. If you have not driven by Milwaukee Avenue, please do so. I haven't heard from any residents who are getting a much better home. Some are going to single-family homes, some are going to different prefabricated homes, but, you know, I think everybody is happy from what I've heard so far. And Director Weezer, I know your staff has been working with the residents and a lot of interpretation. Thank you so much for that, a lot of work. Secondly, for those of you who are confused, first of all, we don't issue a percentage for taxes. We issue a levy, as do all municipalities. This is the amount that we need. Assistant Director Smith can help me out on this, but that levy is issued and it says this is what we need, and it's spread out among each and all properties. If you need a very simple, basic explanation, which anybody can understand, please go to the budget meeting and listen to what Director Mondeschain provides every year. I've been attending budget meetings for years before I was on this board, and I will continue to do so. And he will tell you how we reached that levy and what's going on and what effect based on the number of businesses and homes we have. It does matter what the property value is, and I will guarantee you that Kenilworth property values, homeowners' property value is a lot higher than that in Wheeling. So it matters. We take our budget, we look at it very seriously. As President Horker said, no one person decides how they're going to spend all the money. There are budgets, we look at it, and we look at it very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel, did you have something? Trustee Vito, I'm sorry, then Trustee Vogel.
Yes, it is Restaurant Month, as I forgot who made the proclamation. Did you make the proclamation? Somebody made the proclamation. So get out and visit the restaurants in town if you haven't. Trustee Kruger just promoted a Prospect Heights restaurant that has an Arlington Heights address. I'm going to promote a Prospect Heights restaurant that has a Wheeling address. The Tap House Grill is having a ribbon cutting on Thursday. It's at the airport, so it's kind of Wheeling, and it has a Wheeling address, so come on out. But support all the restaurants up and down Milwaukee Avenue. To kind of respond to what Trustee Papanto said, if it's a response to what Ms. Wilson said in terms of the taxation, it's a bigger issue, a clearer issue. The tax bill itself, if you're just looking at property taxes, is Director Mondeschain will always say, we're at 10 to 12% of that. So if you're looking at property taxes paid by a Wheeling resident, 90 to 88% of it is not us. So I don't know, we may still be higher. So I don't know what the Village of Wheeling's tax is versus, say, Kenilworth's tax levy in terms of overall property value. That may still be high. So I don't know if it's an apples to apples comparison, or if it's, you know, our school districts and other districts are just taxing higher than we are, than other districts are in other towns. So it's hard to get that assessment of actual money. I don't know. I'm sure Mondeschain probably knows it, but he's not here and we can't interrogate him. So I don't know what that number is.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. I'm sorry, Trustee Vogel, please forgive my...
Just a comment. As we were going through the approval process tonight, I noticed a couple of things. They talked about having enclosures around the trash bins. And I agree with them. I think every business likes to have that. It makes their restaurant, their business look neater. But can we do anything to have the people that pick it up close the gate after they're done? Do we have any control over that at all? A couple of businesses talked to me and said, you know what, we spent all this money on this gate and putting in a cement slab, and these guys come by, they open the gate, it's wide open, it's flopping in the wind every day. And we have to go out and close it. Can't they're out of the truck, can't they just, they open it, can't they close it?
Yeah, I think this is a common problem, unfortunately, not just here in Wheeling, but with the waste haulers, and has been, boy, for as long as I've even been around doing this. But we can certainly reach out to our waste haulers and impress upon them how important that is in terms of you know, any actual teeth to enforce that. I'm not sure what we have other than
Well, when their contract comes up, maybe we
Right.
can
That would
put
be-
some pressure on them and put it in the contract.
Yeah, but we can certainly reach out, and we talked about it earlier today, actually, this exact issue, so.
Okay, thank you. One other thing, as you all know, Trustee Brady's not here tonight. If you can keep him in your prayers and thoughts, he's having a pretty rough time right now, and hopefully weather will cooperate and he'll be back on his feet shortly, but keep him in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Any other comments from staff? If there are no other comments, we have bills to pay. We have the approval of the bills before you for January 11th through January 31st, 2018. I need a motion to approve them.
So moved.
That was Trustee Vogel, seconded by
Second.
Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we have no executive session tonight. Is that true?
That's true.
Thank you.
correct.
Support staff. That being the case, you need that motion to adjourn.
Nah.
Okay. I gotta wait till the snow finishes anyway.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vito, second.
Second.
Trustee Lang. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. Anybody opposed? You can stay. Around, the lights will stay on. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. Meeting adjourned.